Welcome to Ratals.com tutorials part 1 in setting up your site into a blog. This is the default layout that you get after installing the Ratals software. And if you remember, we set up our admin area as just admin1 when we were creating our account. I'm going to go ahead and log into this backend area where we'll be able to edit the front end of the site to make it look more like a blog. So this template here is the store template, and that's what gets set up by default when you install the software. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into content, pages, all pages, and I'm going to sort this column here of ID just to get to number 1 because I know that's where our home page is at. Now, if you install or add a second site down here, your home page obviously isn't going to be number 1. This is just because this is our first site in the database. So it ends up being record number 1 for our pages, which is our home page, which gets installed first when installing the software. So we're going to go into edit here, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to switch out our template from the homepage store. I'm going to switch it to the blog template, so the homepage blog, because that's what we're going to run it as. And I'm going to go down here and hit save. And now when I refresh, we get a little bit of a different layout where we can have our blog posts right in here. Now, if we were wanting to have some text in here after and not have it say homepage and some text after it, we're going to modify that really quick. So I'm just going to put, this is our blog. And again, you can put here whatever you want or remove it if you don't want it. And then in our top area, we're working on our text editor right now for this top content area and the bottom content area. We had the choice to use a third-party editor that was open source that we could have put in here, but to reduce the number of licenses that the Ratals software is connected to, we opted just to create our own. And so we're working on that, and hopefully it'll be done here shortly in the next little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and put here, this is our blog content, and then I'm just going to paste this over and over again so that we can just get some content here so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So that's good enough. I'm just going to go down here and hit save now. And if you want some content up the top, it can look like that. I'm going to take one off just so that we only have 3 lines. And so we'll just take one off. Oh, we'll do 2. Like so. Hit save. And you can see where we now have some top content. Now, if you wanted to remove this slider right here, if you didn't want it, we could go into our sliders by going to our design, sliders, all sliders, and I'm just going to turn it off by disabling it right here. And you can see now it just puts content at the top, and we'll just see our post. You can even remove this content if you don't want it, as you saw where I edited it. But the point is now you can see that it's starting to look more like a blog. I'm going to turn this slider back on where our post will end up being right inside here, okay? And if you want to modify those images on the slider, you can go in here. You can delete these by checking here and hit delete, and then setting up, add a slide, setting up your own slider, or you can just change out the images that are on here by just going in and just change the image, and it'll switch them out to whatever you want, okay? Now that we have our template layout set up as a blog, the first thing that we're going to do when it comes to add the actual blog post itself is we want to create a author bio so that we can see who is the person who's writing these blog posts. Now, if you don't want an author bio, you don't have to set these up, but I'm going to set it up in case you do. And so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to hit add, and I'm just going to create it for myself. And then I'm just going to paste that in here a whole bunch of times just for the purposes of having something in here for the paragraph of who this person is. And we're going to select this default image right here. And you can obviously add your own images in here of yourself or whoever the person is who's writing your post. And we're going to select this as the bio. And I'm going to put for our screen readers, for our alt tag here, to be able to, for screen readers to be able to read it. We'll just put that in there. And now what we're going to do next is we're prepared now to create a post or categories that will show. And so what we're going to do first is inside of our blog. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create a category. And I'm just going to pretend that my blog is about shoes. And so I'm going to go to content, add categories, add category. And I'm just going to create a category called shoes because I'm going to pretend that's what it's going to be about, my blog. And we're not going to select a subcategory for this to sit in. So like, let's just pretend I want it to be inside our blog. So now our URL would look like .com/blog/shoes, but we don't want that. Shoes is going to be our primary category. Then we'll put our post inside shoes, everything about shoes. And obviously if you had pants, shirts, socks, any other type of apparel maybe that you're doing, you might want to create categories for them. So you put all your posts inside each of those categories. Yeah, but this is going to be a top level category, so we're not going to put it inside anything. So I'm just going to copy this shoe so I don't have to keep pasting it in. And you'll notice that it lowercases our URLs and creates everything to where it's correct. So if I put a space in here, it's going to make a dash for our spaces. And if I just start typing something else in, you can see that it's dash and it keeps going for us there and creating our URL. So, but what we're going to do is we're just going to get our shoes and we'll just leave our categories, this category like that. And I'm going to come down, I'm just going to paste it in. Our H1 tag is just going to be called shoes. I'm not going to put any top or bottom content in. And let's just go ahead and say this category is going to use this image right here. Again, you should have an image for your category, right, to make it look nice. So it's not just these default images. And we'll go ahead and just say display breadcrumbs, yes. And we'll let it use the meta title, which you can see right here. It's going to use the meta title for the breadcrumb, which is this up here. It's just going to say shoes. If you end up having a really long title for a category or post or something like that, and you don't want the breadcrumbs to use that really long name, you can put it in here like a custom name for your breadcrumbs. And we'll go into, I'll show you in a minute what breadcrumbs are once we have them displaying. And so for our sitemap, we're going to say, yes, we want this to be in our HTML sitemap, our XML sitemap, which helps search engines find all of our content. And in site search, we want it to display when someone's searching our site. And we're going to use our category of a blog because that's what it is. It's not going to be a store. This is going to be a blog category. And we're not going to put an author on this because it's a category. It's not really a post. Number of posts to display inside this category, I'm going to put 10. By default, it's 10. So you don't really have to put 10 in. If you wanted 20, usually that's when you would put it in. So I put the 10 in there just to show you that that's what it's going to be. But you don't have to put anything in here at all if you want to keep it at the default of 10. If you want it to be bigger than that, you can add it in. And so you can adjust this at every category level. If you want one category to have a whole bunch of entries before it paginates to page 2, you can do that. But we'll just leave it at 10. Number of posts, so 10. Products, it doesn't apply. Filters doesn't apply. And we're going to say we want it to have 2 columns for our post. So it's going to essentially put a column here and a column here. So it's going to have 2 posts inside this category, or 2 columns inside this category. And so now we're going to go and create a post. So I'm going to go ahead and hit all post. And obviously we don't have any post. And so we're going to add a post, right? And we're just going to call this my first post, right? Keep it real simple. And for our hierarchy URL, we are going to want to put this inside of our shoes category. So we'll go down to our S's here. And there's our shoes because that's our blog post category. My first post, I'm actually going to say about shoes. About shoes because this is our shoes category, right? So my first post about shoes. And I'm going to copy that and go down here and we'll paste it in as our description and our keyword, our H1 tag that is going to display in the blog post. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a whole bunch of content here for the purposes of just having a lot. So it's a long post, okay? And again, you shouldn't have to do this with wrapping these with paragraphs. By the time you get here, there'll be an editor in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and just put this down a whole bunch. So it's going to be a really long paragraph. That might be a little bit too long. Let's go up to here, right? That looks good for a paragraph. And I'm just going to paste a whole bunch of these in. So it's going to end up being a really long post. And I'm going to copy this so I don't have to keep typing it. So we're going to have a really long post saying the same thing. And now I'm going to go ahead and create or set an image. I'm going to set this image here 1050 by 300 because that's kind of the dimensions. I want a rectangle for my post pictures. If you wanted it more squared, you could do a squared image where it's 650 by 650 because it's even on both sides. It's squared. I'm going to use rectangles for my post. And so in the beginning, when you're setting this up, you kind of want to decide what do I want my images to look like. So if I go back over here, do I want a large square image for each post and then another one here? Or do I want it more like a rectangle that'll fit here and then the next one here and so on? So I'm going to use rectangles because I think for a post, I personally think it looks better, but you know, everybody has their own preference of what looks good to them. And so you got to pick what's right for you. And once you pick those image sizes, you kind of want to stick with them for all your posts moving forward, so everything is symmetric and looks the same, right? So it stays looking good. And we're going to go ahead and just say display breadcrumbs is yes. We're going to leave it using the title by default. Yes, yes, yes. And we're going to use our post template here so we can see what it looks like as a post. Now, because this is a post, we're going to go ahead and say we're going to select the author bio on it. So it shows that Rob Cuppett wrote this post. Allow comments. We're going to say yes and display it inside our shoes category. So even though we set it up here to say use the URL as shoes, we don't actually have to put it. It won't actually just display in shoes by itself. We have to say we want it to display in shoes. And this gives us the power to say we can create any URL and it doesn't necessarily force us to put it in that category. So we can choose what categories we want it to be in. Now, as we create, this is shoes, as we maybe create shirts, pants, socks, whatever else, we can choose to say, hey, this post should be in all of them. We can pick which ones we want it to be in, or it's just shoes as we create more categories. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit save on this. And now when we go to the front end, we see our first blog post on our homepage. Now I'm going to pause the video here and we're going to come back and we're going to finish out by putting a blog comment in and stuff like that, how to manage the comments and fully managing the blog itself and keeping it looking really good and maybe a little bit of modifications from a design perspective. But we'll see you in the next video. Go watch part 2. See you there.